She stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, the question hanging in the air between her and her own tired eyes: what's wrong with me? 3 years into her marriage, Sophia couldn't remember the last time she'd actually wanted physical intimacy with her husband. The man she once couldn't keep her hands off now slept beside her night after night, the distance between them growing with each passing month. Was this just what happened to all women eventually? Or was there something fundamentally broken about her? If you've ever asked yourself these questions, if you've ever felt that disconnect between what you want to want and what you actually feel, you're not alone, and what I'm about to share might change everything you thought you knew about female desire. Before we dive in, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more content that breaks down the taboos and misconceptions around intimacy that keep too many of us suffering in silence. Sophia closed her laptop with a sigh, the blue light that had illuminated her face for the past 3 hours finally extinguished. It was nearly midnight. Again. She glanced over at the other side of the bed where Mark lay sleeping, his back turned toward her. The sight of him used to fill her with warmth and desire. Now, she mostly felt a dull anxiety, knowing that if he woke up and reached for her, she'd have to either reject him again or force herself to participate in something her body simply wasn't interested in. 8 years together. 3 years married. And somehow, they'd become strangers sharing the same space. She slipped under the covers, careful not to disturb him. There was a time when the mere presence of his body next to hers would send electricity through her veins. Now, she maintained the careful border of her side of the bed, as if crossing it required paperwork and approval. It's just stress, she whispered to herself in the darkness. It's normal. Everyone goes through this. But as she drifted off to sleep, the hollow feeling in her chest told her otherwise. The next morning, Sophia stood in the kitchen, watching Mark prepare his coffee with the precision of a scientist. 1 splash of oat milk. No sugar. A quick stir. The same routine she'd observed for years. I have that dinner with clients tonight, he said, not looking up from his mug. Probably won't be home until late. That's fine, Sophia replied automatically. I have a deadline anyway. Mark nodded, took his coffee, and kissed her cheek, a perfunctory gesture that felt more like checking a box than expressing affection. Then he was gone, the sound of the front door closing behind him echoing through their stylish but increasingly empty-feeling apartment. Sophia sat at the kitchen island, her own coffee cooling in front of her, and felt the weight of realization settle on her shoulders. When had they stopped really seeing each other? When had touch become so rare that even the brush of his lips against her cheek felt foreign? More importantly, when had she stopped wanting him? It wasn't that she didn't love Mark. She did, deeply and completely. He was kind, intelligent, supportive, and still as handsome as the day they'd met. By all logical measures, she should be attracted to him. But somewhere along the way, the pilot light of her desire had gone out, and she had no idea how to reignite it. That afternoon, instead of working on her deadline, Sophia found herself searching online, "Why don't I want sex anymore?" The results were predictable. Hormones. Stress. Relationship issues. All the usual suspects. But one article caught her eye, "The Invisible Factors Killing Female Desire, What Your Doctor Won't Tell You." The article was written by Dr. Elena Rivera, a sex therapist and relationship coach who specialized in female sexuality. Unlike the other articles that offered quick fixes and superficial advice, Dr. Rivera's piece spoke about the complex interplay between emotional connection, hormonal balance, and stress management in female desire. Female sexual desire isn't a switch that can be flipped on and off, Dr. Rivera wrote. It's more like a garden that needs constant tending, the right nutrients, adequate sunlight, protection from harsh elements, and regular care. When any of these elements are missing, the garden withers. Something about this metaphor resonated deeply with Sophia. She'd been treating her lack of desire as a mechanical problem, something that could be fixed with the right technique or tool. But what if it was more organic than that? What if her body was simply responding to an environment that no longer nurtured desire? She scrolled down and saw that Dr. Rivera was offering a workshop that weekend in the city. Understanding Female Desire, Beyond the Myths. Before she could talk herself out of it, Sophia registered. Saturday morning found Sophia sitting in a sunlit room with 15 other women of various ages. Some looked nervous, some determined, all sharing the same underlying question in their eyes: is there something wrong with me? Dr. Rivera was nothing like Sophia had expected. Instead of the clinical, detached professional she'd imagined, Elena, as she asked to be called, was warm, approachable, and radiated a kind of grounded confidence that immediately put the room at ease. "Let's start with the biggest myth," Elena said after introductions. "The idea that female desire is primarily responsive rather than spontaneous. How many of you have heard some version of women need to be turned on before they want sex, while men want sex and then get turned on?" Nearly every hand in the room went up, including Sophia's. "This oversimplification has done immense damage," Elena continued. "Yes, many women experience responsive desire, especially in long-term relationships. But that doesn't mean women don't have spontaneous desire or that men don't experience responsive desire. The truth is much more nuanced." Over the next 3 hours, Elena walked them through the complex interplay of factors that influence female desire. She talked about the role of stress, how the female body prioritizes survival over reproduction when under chronic stress, effectively shutting down sexual desire as a biological response. "Your body doesn't distinguish between running from a predator and running between meetings while juggling family responsibilities and financial pressures," Elena explained. "Chronic stress keeps your system flooded with cortisol, which suppresses the hormones related to sexual desire." She discussed hormonal fluctuations, not just the obvious ones related to menstrual cycles, pregnancy, and menopause, but the subtle daily shifts that can be influenced by sleep quality, nutrition, exercise, and even exposure to environmental toxins. But what struck Sophia most was when Elena began talking about emotional connection. For many women, emotional intimacy isn't just a nice addition to physical intimacy, it's the foundation upon which physical desire is built, Elena said. When emotional connection frays, physical desire often follows. This isn't weakness or neediness, it's a different but equally valid way of experiencing sexuality. Sophia felt a jolt of recognition. She and Mark had been emotionally disconnected for months, maybe years. They talked about schedules and household tasks, occasionally about work challenges, but rarely about their inner worlds, their fears, dreams, vulnerabilities. When had they stopped really seeing each other? After the workshop, Sophia approached Elena with a question that had been burning in her mind. "How do you rebuild desire once it's gone?" she asked, her voice smaller than she intended. Elena's eyes were kind but direct. "You start by rebuilding connection, with yourself first, then with your partner. Most women I work with have disconnected not just from their partners but from their own bodies, their own needs, their own pleasure." "What does that mean, practically speaking?" Sophia pressed. "It means creating space in your life for self-awareness and self-care. It means communicating honestly with your partner about what you're experiencing. And it means addressing the underlying factors, stress, hormonal imbalances, emotional disconnection, rather than just treating the symptom of low desire." Elena handed Sophia her card. "I work with couples as well as individuals. If you and your partner are both willing, sometimes a few targeted sessions can make a world of difference." That night, when Mark came home from his client dinner, Sophia was waiting for him in the living room. No special setup, no candles or wine, just her, present and ready for an honest conversation. "Can we talk?" she asked as he loosened his tie. Mark looked surprised but nodded, settling into the armchair across from her. "Everything okay?" Sophia took a deep breath. "Not really. I went to a workshop today about female sexuality and desire, and it made me realize some things about us, about me, that I think we need to address." Mark's expression shifted from surprise to concern. Okay, he said cautiously. I love you, Sophia began, wanting to establish that foundation first. That hasn't changed. But somewhere along the way, I've lost my desire for physical intimacy, and it's not because I don't find you attractive or because I don't love you. It's more complicated than that. She explained what she'd learned about the connection between emotional intimacy and physical desire, about how stress and disconnection had created a perfect storm in her body and mind. I feel like we've become really good roommates, she said. We manage the household, we support each other's careers, we're kind to each other. But when was the last time we really talked? Not about schedules or chores, but about what we're feeling, what we're dreaming about, what we're afraid of. Mark was quiet for a long moment. I've noticed the distance, he finally admitted. I thought maybe you were just going through something and needed space. Or that maybe. He hesitated. Maybe what? Sophia prompted. Maybe you weren't attracted to me anymore, he finished, his voice uncharacteristically vulnerable. The admission hit Sophia like a physical blow. No, she said firmly. That's not it at all. If anything, I've been worried that there's something wrong with me because I should be attracted to you, you're everything I've ever wanted in a partner, but my body just isn't responding the way it used to. So what do we do? Mark asked, and Sophia heard real openness in his question. The workshop leader, Elena, is also a couples therapist who specializes in intimacy issues. I was thinking maybe we could see her together. Not because we're broken or failing, but because we deserve more than just coexisting. We deserve to really connect again. To Sophia's surprise and relief, Mark didn't hesitate. I'd like that, he said. I miss you, sophomore. Not just the physical stuff, though I do miss that, but I miss us. I miss feeling like we're really in this together instead of just running parallel lives. That night, they didn't have sex. But for the first time in months, they fell asleep holding each other, a small bridge beginning to form across the chasm that had grown between them. Their first session with Elena was the following week. Sophia had been nervous about how Mark would respond to therapy. He'd always been private about his emotions, more comfortable solving practical problems than discussing feelings. But to her surprise, he engaged fully, answering Elena's questions thoughtfully and listening to Sophia with a presence she hadn't felt from him in years. Elena's approach was practical as well as emotional. She helped them identify specific patterns that had contributed to their disconnection, the way they'd prioritized work over quality time together, how they'd stopped sharing the small daily moments that build intimacy, how they'd fallen into roles and routines that left little room for spontaneity or vulnerability. Intimacy requires presence, Elena explained. Not just physical presence, but emotional and mental presence. When we're constantly distracted, by work, by screens, by the endless to-do lists of modern life, we can be in the same room but miles apart emotionally. She gave them homework, 20 minutes each day of completely undistracted time together. No phones, no TV, no discussion of household logistics or work stress. Just being together, talking about things that mattered, or sometimes not talking at all, just being fully present with each other. This isn't about creating artificial date nights or forcing physical intimacy, Elena clarified. It's about creating the conditions where connection, and eventually desire, can naturally re-emerge. The first few days of their homework felt awkward, almost like they were strangers on a first date. But gradually, something began to shift. Sophia found herself looking forward to their 20 minutes, found herself thinking throughout the day about things she wanted to share with Mark. And she noticed him doing the same, bringing home stories or observations he thought would interest her, asking questions that went beyond the surface of their daily lives. In their second session, Elena introduced the concept of stress management as a crucial component of rebuilding desire. Sophia, you mentioned that you often feel touched out by the end of the day, that physical contact feels like one more demand on your energy rather than something pleasurable, Elena noted. This is a classic sign of a system overwhelmed by stress. She helped Sophia identify specific stressors in her life and develop strategies to address them, some practical, delegating certain tasks, setting better boundaries at work, and some physiological, specific breathing techniques, changes to her exercise routine to reduce rather than add to her stress load. For women especially, Elena explained, the body's stress response can directly inhibit sexual desire. Your body essentially says, now is not a safe time to be vulnerable or to reproduce. Understanding this biological reality can help remove the shame or confusion around low desire. For Mark's part, Elena helped him understand that Sophia's lack of desire wasn't a rejection of him personally but a complex physiological and emotional response. Many men take their partner's low desire as a personal failure or rejection, Elena said. This creates a cycle where the man's hurt or frustration adds pressure, which further reduces the woman's desire. Breaking this cycle requires understanding and patience from both partners. Over the next few weeks, Sophia began to notice subtle shifts in her body and mind. As she implemented Elena's stress management techniques and as her emotional connection with Mark deepened, she found herself more aware of sensations in her body. A warmth when Mark smiled at her across the room. A flutter when their hands brushed while cooking dinner together. Small sparks of the desire she'd feared was gone forever. In their fourth session, Elena introduced the hormonal component of female desire. Many women experience hormonal fluctuations that affect desire, but few understand how to work with these natural cycles rather than against them, she explained. Tracking your energy, mood, and desire throughout your monthly cycle can provide valuable insights. She recommended specific nutritional approaches to support hormonal balance and suggested that Sophia consider getting comprehensive testing to rule out any underlying imbalances that might be contributing to her low desire. Sometimes what we attribute to relationship issues or stress is actually being driven or exacerbated by hormonal factors, Elena said. Addressing these physical factors alongside the emotional and relationship work can create powerful synergies. The testing revealed that Sophia had subclinical thyroid issues and significantly low vitamin D levels, both factors that can impact energy, mood, and desire. With targeted supplementation and some dietary changes, she began to feel more energetic and balanced overall. But the most profound changes came from the deepening emotional connection between her and Mark. As they practiced being truly present with each other, as they relearned how to share their inner worlds, Sophia felt a softening in her body, a gradual reawakening of her sensuality. One evening, about 2 months into their work with Elena, Sophia and Mark were cooking dinner together, something that had become a cherished ritual rather than just another chore. Mark was telling a story about a client meeting, gesturing animatedly with a wooden spoon, when Sophia felt a surge of something she hadn't experienced in too long, pure, simple desire for her husband. It wasn't dramatic or overwhelming. It was quiet, natural, like a flower turning toward the sun. She moved behind him, wrapped her arms around his waist, and pressed her cheek against his back, breathing in his familiar scent. Mark paused mid-sentence, his body going still. Slowly, he placed his hands over hers, a silent acknowledgement of the shift between them. That night, when they made love for the first time in months, it wasn't the passionate, urgent connection of their early relationship. It was something different, tender, present, almost reverent. They moved together with a new awareness, each touch an acknowledgement, I see you. I'm here with you. I choose you. Afterward, lying in the quiet darkness, Sophia realized something profound. Her desire hadn't disappeared because there was something wrong with her or because she didn't love Mark enough. It had disappeared because the conditions that nurtured it, emotional connection, stress management, hormonal balance, had been neglected in the rush of daily life. And the fix hadn't been lingerie or date nights or any of the quick solutions that magazines and websites loved to suggest. The fix had been the harder, deeper work of reconnecting, with herself, with her body, and with the man she loved. In their final session with Elena, Sophia shared this realization. I think I always saw desire as something that should just happen automatically if you love someone enough, she said. But now I understand that it's more like a garden that needs tending. The love is the foundation, but it needs other elements to flourish. Elena smiled. That's exactly right. And like a garden, it will go through seasons. There will be times of abundance and times of dormancy. The key is understanding those cycles and knowing how to work with them rather than against them. She looked between Sophia and Mark. What you've done is create a new foundation for intimacy, one based on true connection, understanding, and mutual care. That foundation will serve you through all the seasons of your relationship. 6 months later, Sophia and Mark weren't perfect.